Hey, welcome back to Kothcast, the show where we talk about anything and everything. Today's guests are Underbite and RK from Culturally Effed.
Hey!
Good afternoon, everybody. Morning, evening, wherever you are.
Hey guys. As usual, I want to have you guys introduce yourselves to my audience and say like who you are, what you do, what your channel's about.
Sure. I'm RK, and I produce Culturally Effed, which I usually describe to people as short format video essays on pop culture, mostly and exclusively to do with talking animals and the furry fandom. Underbite here is the channel partner. He does the artwork and a lot of the other sort of production and stuff. I do the writing and editing and most of the presenting. And Rusty is a rabbit who does the other funny stuff in the vlogs.
Okay, cool. Rusty is your that's your persona, right, RK?
No, technically my persona is a red-winged blackbird, which I'm currently redesigning. It'll probably be a kingfisher by the time we're done.
Okay.
So Rusty is my fursuit. We made him specifically for YouTube. With a challenge that I had a bunch of red fur, and I was like, what animals can I make with red? So I was looking at a deer and a fox and some other animals that could wear red well. I ended up on rabbit. And Rusty Shacklefur is his full name, and it's the King of the Hill joke, sort of
Right.
like a play on identity, the fake alternate identity. So really, Rusty is my OC. He's not my persona.
Okay. Interesting.
And Underbite here is the big yellow dragon.
Yeah, that's my actual persona.
Right, yeah, I figured.
I appear as myself with someone who's appearing as a mascot within the context.
Yeah.
They both could be the same, but it's like, yeah, let's go a step further.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a while, I tried to maintain the mystique of oh, who is Rusty? He's his own guy. But I'm kind of bored of it now, so Rusty is just made for YouTube basically as a mascot for Culturally Effed. Which is why, as a mascot, he can have his own persona, which is Tetanus.
What? Tetanus?
Tetanus is Rusty's persona.
Oh,
and
okay.
Several videos starring Tetanus.
So
the most recent video, which was our Halloween special.
Okay.
And at one point, Rusty actually suits up in Tetanus,
Yep.
doesn't he? When we first reveal him?
So I had a friend was given a used fursuit.
Okay.
Picture that as you will. So he was gonna take the fur off and reuse the head, and I realized that the loose fur skin fit over Rusty's face. So we put it on Rusty's face, and it's really horrible and really cringy.
Oh my god.
That's Tetanus.
We're all about experimenting on Culturally Effed, that's for sure.
So it's like a dilapidated fursuit then? Like tetanus, I mean that's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So nightmare fuel for fursuiters is the objective with Tetanus.
Total nightmare fuel.
Tetanus versus
That's
Rusty.
That's why we usually only bring him out for Halloween.
Okay, I haven't seen your Halloween thing, so I haven't seen tetanus, but that sounds fun. Like
There's only 2 videos you should watch to catch up on everything to do with Tetanus. I made a compilation of all of his little references and appearances, and then there's the Halloween video from a few weeks ago. The Halloween video was a lot of fun. We did it at Underbite's birthday, and pretty much entirely while intoxicated.
Yeah, it was definitely more of an ambitious shoot for us, and definitely more chewing than we could swallow.
Yeah.
As far as trying to coordinate a bunch of drunk furries during the party. And I didn't they had came in at about 9. I didn't want to be like, all right, everybody who just showed up, let's just do this shot. No, I mean, I gotta let them mix. I gotta let them all say hi to each other and relax. And oh crap, it's 10:30. We gotta film this thing.
Okay, everybody, let's sit over there and be scared of tetanus.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so, I can imagine.
It's a big departure from what we usually make, which is a video essay, in the studio, single shot or 3 shots, with memes and GIFs.
The smart way to start filming with fursuits is not to do it with a dozen people at night and intoxicated with scribbly storyboards. No. But I was able to extract that from it as well, and that I did storyboard out this short little skit. It did go in its own directions. I was expecting a minute and a half to 2 minutes. It ended up being almost 5. And so this was that was a huge learning experience. And I mean, I'm not so much concerned about however many views or ratings it got or how people felt about it. It was more about the fact that we went out and
it's just for fun, really.
Yeah. And I mean,
a little bit of a break for us to do something a little outside the format.
And I mean, it's something I want to start playing with more within my own narratives, like especially with Culturally After what we have going on. I'd like to be able to produce more creative storytelling, which offers us something a bit more similar to the street, like the furry streams that are already up on YouTube. I mean, we presented ourselves as a more factual platform, but as we progress and as Underbite nears completion in his suit, I currently have the head and hands ready, but we're just waiting on the rest of the parts. Once he's done,
the suit's done, then the Underbite Fursuit will be a regular feature of Culturally Eft, probably playing a similar role to Rusty, or maybe being like the straight man to Rusty's insanity.
Likely that case.
Sort of thing.
He is based off my grandfather, so somebody who's really quiet and a little dopey with a high energy, eccentric rabbit. I think that could be exciting. Even if they like some sort of lighthearted scenario as a break from the usual Culturally After every now and then.
Right. So, yeah, that's there's so many like fursuit channels that are just kind of silly, like I unboxing something in my fursuit, or just like talking about nothing in the fursuit. So it's like there's definitely an appeal, or there's definitely an audience for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of why I made Rusty and introduced him in the channel. But always since day one, I wanted Culturally Esh to be like the human side of furry. So that's why I never shied away of showing my face and explaining the fandom in simple terms.
And likewise, I have Culturally After my actual person portfolio right now. And I mean, I tell people about it. I'm very open about my involvement with the community because it's a lot of the art that I produce and a lot of my clients. And
I've also made a video like portfolio just on this simple furry YouTube channel, and it's gotten me some pretty great interviews.
Oh yeah, that's good. I like that you guys are doing that, because there aren't enough people who do that, where they have a sort of put a human aspect to it. So you have this wider appeal, you have this wider audience. You don't have to be a furry to watch it. You can just be kind of interested in furries, or
a latent furry.
A latent furry, yeah, furry in denial, as we call it.
Curious.
Fur curious. Oh man. So yeah, that's really cool. So you guys you go to conventions ever and talk on like panels or anything?
We mostly stick to local cons. We have the big one here in Toronto. We went to Ottawa last year. It's just not really in our price range right now to go into the bigger cons on the other side of the border. We were mostly just doing local meets and stuff. Just this past weekend, we were at an amazing furry party called Kerfuffle. It took place in a parkour gym. So there was a big foam pit and like monkey bars everywhere.
The dance floor was one big bouncy floor.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So I would say we're pretty tapped into our local scene for cons and events.
There's a lot going on in Toronto, honestly.
Totally.
It's a little overwhelming how much there is to do as a furry in Toronto.
Yeah,
There's a lot of different...
Kerfuffle, not that we go to there, but there's also a quarterly Islington meets and the big main con, which is now downtown on the waterfront. Yeah.
Always handful of different meets and meetups happening weekly, monthly, group chats.
Cool.
Oshawa has a huge group out there, so I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on in the greater Toronto area.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Canadian furry scene. I barely know anything about the American furry scene, but
it can be vast and ambiguous sometimes. So.
Yeah. There's
the opposite. It's completely like a scarce desert wasteland.
Which is where, even in St. John's, Newfoundland, where I grew up, I mean, there are still at least like a dozen of them, but I mean, I didn't really want to associate with almost any of them. So.
Here in Toronto, there's a lot of different groups and a big diversity of people, so like you can find your clique and sort of find a circle of friends. But when you're out in the boonies, you don't really have much of a choice for what furries you can hang out with.
Yeah. Oh no. I know that feeling. I live kind of in the woods. The closest fur meet is like 45 minutes away, so I don't know if I want to drive that every time they have an event. And even when I get there, since I don't have a fursuit and it seems like everybody else does, like I don't even know if I like fit in.
Yeah. I'm now in the position where like I have to decide, do I want to bring my camera or do I want to bring my fursuit? So I can bring my fursuit and have fun and goof around, but I won't have any pictures. Or I could bring my camera and take a lot of great pictures, but not have fun goofing around.
That's why I picked up painting instead of photography, because it's just like, I hate living my trip. I hate living my experience through the lens of a camera. It captures it for people, which is a beautiful thing to share. But individually, I'm like, nope, I'm not on the camera. I don't want to do that. So.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I've gone to a few events where I had to consider bringing my camera, and it was like, this would be good for the channel, but at the same time, I kind of just want to enjoy myself. I don't want to have to record every single thing I do in life. Like, YouTube starts to eat every aspect of your life,
Yeah, I mean, it's a career for some people. Like, I would love to build a career on it myself. I'm trying to. Yeah. It's all consuming, and people don't realize just how long video editing takes. Not to mention, my stuff is all scripted, so it all has to be researched and written out and drafted, and I have to get someone to review it to make sure I'm not spewing shit out of my mouth. It's quite a process to get even one video out, so it's part of why we really slowed down our production.
I mean, finding memes isn't exactly easy either, especially if it's for specific scripts, moments. They have so many organized throughout
getting the
video.
pacing right.
Yeah.
We had a big technical problem with our last episode, so we had to try to ADR, which is something we've never done before, and it added like 3 extra days of work.
Oh my gosh.
To a simple video about Sonic memes.
The reason why we couldn't shoot it was because the shot included a board of comic pages, specific images that as soon as we finished the first shoot,
don't need this anymore.
We threw it out, and then we realized, no, that shit was bogus. We need to do it again. Yeah. No, we don't have the prop that was in the center shot, featured in the right shot, and it's the right shot that we need to do.
This will make way more sense once the video is released.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
People with a careful ear will probably be able to tell which parts we ADR'd, but I think we did an okay job.
Looks great.
Yeah, that sounds like a ton of work. It's a pain in the ass. That's one of the reasons why I don't show my face, because it's so much easier to edit audio when there's just a character on the screen.
Yeah, it's easier just to re-record or add things as needed, but when it's video, if you need to add something, you have to do the whole setup again. And but.
Well, I think you guys can make a career out of it. You definitely have the production value. Like, sometimes I'm kind of jealous because I see your guys' videos and, like, your intro and just the, like, the camera is obviously, like, a higher grade camera. And, it's like, shit, I wish I could make my videos look this good.
Yeah, part of that is, we received some public funding last year. Really small amount of money to help build a studio space and give us that sort of consistency, which is awesome. And now that I have extra space, we get to expand our studio a little bit. So 2018 is looking pretty awesome production-wise. It's going to look better. We're working on a new mini-series called Fursuiting a History, which is basically a history of costume leading up to fursuits.
Okay.
So we're really going to push the envelope with that, and maybe even submit it to some film festivals, like some web fests.
That sounds good.
Pretty stoked.
That's good for exposure. I mean, you guys have, like I said, you have the high production value of a channel, like 10 times your size. So I'm surprised that you don't have more subs.
Me too.
Likewise.
It's very strange.
Maybe it's the sarcastic attitudes we need to drop. Maybe.
No, people like that kind of thing.
We gotta start some gossip. Yeah. We need to start some BS up in there.
We just start a food.
Yeah.
And then
throw some rocks at some poppy furs. Yeah, they'll get some. Fires.
Well, controversy is definitely a way to go when it comes to getting views, but what you guys do with the more factual videos can get views too. I do videos like that and they get plenty of views, but sometimes if you make them about more controversial topics, that works,
Totally.
Well, Tony Tigergate, I guess, would be the
Tony Tigergate.
That stream. That
Yeah.
ton of branches. As far as just getting into gossip videos, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
that stuff drives me nuts.
I'll also have to add that because scripts take a long time to write and then editing takes a long time to write, it's hard for my format of video to be timely when these things happen.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Like Tony Tigergate was an exception because I had a terrible flu and I wasn't going anywhere, so I was able to hammer out a script really quickly, and I just recorded it on my desk. We didn't set up a studio or anything. So I was able to pump that out super quick.
Was I out of Toronto when that happened?
I think for some reason you couldn't come help film or whatever. Or like I decided we need to be timely with this thing. So I rushed it out and it was fine. But yeah, I struggle sticking to a regular production, release schedule, let alone trying to make a video about a specific event or trend or whatever.
Right.
So what I like to say is we specialize in evergreen content, not the trendy, flashy, this is what people are talking about right now content, because you can always go back and rewatch any of my videos because they're not set in a specific event or trend.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. People also like sort of like history videos, like that whole Tony the Tigergate thing. Is a good sort of thing to watch when you want the history of whatever furry scandal is going on at the time, which they pretty much constantly happen. So
yeah,
you can be relevant and be evergreen, like you said, at the same time if you cover something in a way that's like a documentation of an event that happened.
I'm just thinking of Underbite and Ty or something delivering the news for this month in furry. All the hot topics. I don't know.
Yeah, that was Gatorbox's job before the hurricane blew the studio away.
Oh my goodness! I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, I've been thinking of doing a segment like that, basically, to copy Sargon of Akkad's, like This Week in Stupid. I would do like This Week in Furry or something, but like you said, I need like a specific person to do that. I can't do my regular content and that at the same time, it's too much.
Totally.
So, we were talking about how you guys really ought to have a bigger audience. A lot of it might just have to do with exposure. Like, do you advertise anywhere?
Yeah, we have an ad up on FA. It's been there for about a year. It's probably about to expire. And if the ad statistics that Dragoneer emails automatically every month are accurate, then they're getting 300 clicks a month, 400 clicks.
A dozen a day.
Yeah, a couple thousand impressions. So yeah, it's out there, and we've tried advertising in some cons a couple of times. So that is a lot harder to measure how that was successful or not.
I also feel like with a lot of our audience being in the States and our inaccessibility to those events could have a bit of a hindrance as well. I mean, I would love to go to MFF next year. I think realistically that's 2 years away from me. But even if, say, I was only able to get to that, even though it's mostly Arcade's channel, I would still be diving in and running that panel, putting up signage, making sure we have an ad in the comic book for it. So, between the two of us, whatever conventions we get to, we will be running panels on this. So the panel is definitely the most leading part of that sort of advertising. It's just as far as finding the number of opportunities to do it, it's very tricky for us right now.
And likewise, I think we need to find a way to collab better and more frequently. I think you mentioned at the top of your last podcast with Spockter that collab is kind of difficult. YouTube, everyone to collab, get together, make videos together, but it's easier said than done. Especially with Culturally Effed, I can find ways to collab with musicians to have their music in the background, or a writer like Tempe to do a script for us. That's not quite the same as collaborating with another YouTube channel with a different subscriber base. Our really super successful one was with Abergwine and Furries in the Media, and that was planned for several weeks. We were talking back and forth. She helped me write the script. I helped her with her script. And then we had that okay, I'm on your channel, you're on my channel for this video. that was no easy feat. It wasn't as easy as just having like, hey, show up on my channel.
It was
do a thing.
hard earned.
Yeah,
that's for sure. One thing I will say creatively, as far as doing something that's different from what most other people are doing within a niche, especially, like we're already talking niche within niche for our channel, is that because there's not a whole lot of other people doing that, there's less of that audience coming in looking for that. It would be more on their own initiative and say something cool they saw from something else, for example. Like it just seems like it's a lot more likely if you're going through furry YouTube, you're going to find a character rather than something factual. And on that note, I feel like because Culturally F is kind of out there on its own in that sense, Abergoin doing her own thing, kind of similar, but as far as us doing something so exclusive, finding that really tight collaboration is so rare for us. And like that's another thing I'm interested in doing once we get to fursuits going on for us both, is getting more collaborations with the rest of our audience is not only consuming, but actually does for their videos. And I mean, I think it's really cool that we could deliver that Culturally Up. That's sort of unique content. And I think for us to keep expanding into furry, that's sort of, I think that may be what would really help us get more views then. We deliver something cool and unique, but it's all also about what our audience is willing to consume. What you want to do. And sometimes it sucks. It's cold, and if you want it, that's what you gotta do. So
you ever have a video that you're super excited about and then it gets no views, and then you have a video that you kind of don't really give a shit about and then it gets all the views? Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck with that.
Yeah, that's always, that happens all the time. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, strange phenomenon of how hard you give a shit depends on, like, somehow translates to viewership.
Because of that, I try not to, like, for my own art and production and my own posting and recording of journalism and results, like, I try not to get caught up in numbers, but I mean, if I'm able to get interest from an audience, yes or no, and I'm able to grow within it, yes or no, it shouldn't really matter how fast you're growing or anything like that, right? As long as people are there and they're consuming it and you're willing to put out the content, I think that's what matters most in the end. So,
yeah, well, everyone has their own goals, and if that's the goals for you guys to make videos that people like and appeal to your audience, whatever size it is, that's perfectly okay. That's good for you guys. I think that a lot of people will kind of, I guess, sell themselves out for subscribers or views. I know I definitely have at a point, and it's like you have to always ask yourself, what am I willing to do for those views?
Yeah, I would love to sell out. I think selling out would be awesome. I'm very excited to sell out, but we're not quite there yet. But we have a steady income of subscribers. Like, just because we haven't posted a video in a month and a half doesn't mean our viewership has necessarily slowed down any.
I mean, we've started other conversations with other furry YouTubers since our last upload.
Mostly we've been planning, but like I'm not concerned anymore about posting a new video every single week to appease the algorithm. I'm more concerned with just making good videos.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a way to go, because when you make good videos, there's a higher chance that one of those good videos is going to get spread around.
Totally.
Like, how many people make videos who maybe have a bigger audience, but the videos that they make are just quickly forgotten about? Like, no one is going to go back and watch those videos. It's not relevant anymore. It's just the same thing. Like, you can look at some of those channels like Leafy or how Pyrocynical used to be, where they'd have like I don't know how many millions of subscribers they had, but none of their videos except the most recent one they made like matter. No one watches the old videos,
So back to that evergreen content idea.
Yeah.
If it's timeless, we want these things to age well.
My absolute favorite thing to see happen is when one user comments on a string of videos in a row that tells me they binge watched a whole bunch of my channel.
Yeah.
Like, that's all. That means that I did something right and that I've made something that made someone go, whoa, what the hell is this channel? Why am I just finding it now? I need to watch all of it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's definitely a good thing. I've had a few people do that to my channel, but sometimes I wonder why, because I do make a lot of videos that are kind of like relevant only to that time. Like I wanted to make a video about net neutrality, but like you guys said, by the time I got that video done, they would have already voted on whatever they're voting on, you know.
Yeah, good luck with that. I really hope your country doesn't go further into the shitter.
Well, I mean, we could talk about that for a minute if you wanted to, because I actually have different ideas about net neutrality than most people seem to.
Yeah, I can't really say we have too much to contribute to that.
Uh-huh.
Be a little one-sided because we live in Canada, so it's not really a conversation for us to have. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, what is your internet? What is it like in Canada? Do you have the government regulating it, or are the ISPs can do whatever they want?
So yeah, I think it's government regulated to an extent, but there is a bit of a monopoly with Bell Media and Rogers. They kind of run the show. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be safe net neutrality wise for the foreseeable future. But yeah, the two big major telecom companies kind of hoard everything and make it a lot difficult to like get a decent deal or get a decent speed if you want to try a third party.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds like a regular monopoly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's kind of the same thing in the U.S. We have two major companies and they don't compete. They just decide who is going to do a certain section and the other one does a different section, and then it's like you don't actually have a choice even though there are two companies. And the smaller guys can't really do much about that. But the thing about net neutrality here is that if we have this net neutrality thing, then the government can regulate it and they can do whatever they want. And there's really nothing anyone can do about it.
They have control of the media at that point. Like everyone consumes pretty much everything through the internet these days, unless you're over 40 and then you still have a cable connection.
Cell phones.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty dangerous thing once like someone has that much control over the flow of information.
But that's how it is now, right? And people are saying. And the internet companies are pushing to, the ISPs are pushing to get rid of that so that the ISPs can kind of do whatever they want. That's what people think they don't want. They think they want the government to regulate it, but I would say that it would be better for the ISPs to do whatever they want because, yes, they might make like stupid package deals where you have to pay a certain amount to use like Skype specifically or something. But at the same time, it means that other smaller guys can pop up, and if those big companies start offering like shit deals, then another company can offer a better deal, and then everybody will move to them. So it's a self-correcting thing, that's the whole free market. Whereas if the government controls it, then we can't do anything about it. The government can say whatever they want. The government could ban porn, ban looking at porn online. They could just do that, and there's nothing we could do about it.
They tried to do something to that effect, didn't they, a few years ago?
In Germany.
It failed spectacularly. But I think there was some porn ban in the UK, and then another attempt was made in India. But it's kind of the thing that's like super unenforceable and only do so much as a government body, and I'm pretty sure that both of them gave up after a while. But like the real point of net neutrality and why we want net neutrality and the government to step in and enforce net neutrality is that all of these other websites like Affinity or like Patreon or like any of these other smaller websites that aren't on the radar, those are going to be grinded to a halt for people like who are not able to pay for those premiums. It'll be like dial-up speed internet all over again.
I don't know, maybe. Like I said,
I mean, isn't that the big threat of getting net neutrality? Is like, especially if you're a small business owner and you have a website, need to access your own website. Likewise, your customers need decent internet speeds to access your website.
That is a threat, but they didn't do that in the past, and they haven't really. I guess they kind of have. They want to implement
Comcast
fast lanes.
Model. Yeah, I think Comcast and a bunch of other companies did get in trouble for attempting to do these kind of fast lane things back when net neutrality was more. Like they decided that it wasn't good. But anyway, I think we're getting a little outside of our depth with this. I can't say I'm particularly knowledgeable about the situation, or especially with the U.S. where the conversation is really happening.
I don't know. I just see good and bad on both sides, and I don't think that the threat is as terrible as people think. If there was anything, it wouldn't happen for another 10 years probably. But anyway, so moving on. Anything for me?
I've left several comments on your channels. So you're a dragon. What is your dragon hoard? What are you hoarding? What is the big pile of things that you sleep on every night?
Funny, because by the time this podcast comes out, people have already seen it, but I just got a new background for my videos commissioned, and it is like the inside of my lair. And when you look at it, the idea is basically I have a hoard of like magical items. So like potions and trinkets and rings and shit from video games, magical artifacts from all over.
Yes. That's all
that's my so that's my
hoard. Need to hoard something. It's in there.
Yeah, no, it's just, well, I think that it's part of human nature as well. People like to hoard all kinds of shit. They have their little collections of crap.
Totally. What do you hoard, Underbite? Drum parts?
Well, I have a hoard of broken drum parts and sticks.
Good.
I think I have 300 broken sticks now. I think I got 300. No. What do I... I shouldn't think so hard about this. I hoard food, I hoard giant Pusheen plushies, and I hoard, yes, all those drum parts. All those paintbrushes and pencils and paper and papers. Zags and Ivory is my favorite. That's a tangent, but it's I don't really think too much about the hoarding. I like to think about, I don't know.
That's all right.
That's about it.
I have
So do both of you breathe fire, or do you breathe something else, or is it just smoke, or what?
I inhale fire.
I breathe air mostly. No, I apparently blue dragons are lightning dragons, but I don't really like that stereotype, so I am an ice dragon. I breathe ice breath, whatever that is.
Ooh. I bet Excel would love you for advertising.
Excel?
Underbite just exhales pot smoke.
Yes. That's all there ever is out of my mouth. What would if a blue one is if blue's lightning, what is yellow?
Poison, maybe.
Yellow.
Gold.
I think the closest is gold or bronze, which I don't remember what their breath weapons are traditionally. One of them has kind of like a corrosive breath or something.
What do you think, listeners? Let us know in the comments what yellow dragons breathe.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the funny thing, I don't actually know many yellow dragons either, so I couldn't even say like what their favorite breath weapon is.
We know my favorite breath weapon already.
Oh yeah, pot is legal up there, huh?
Almost.
Vaguely.
Oh,
We're almost. It's the federal government told all of the provinces that you need to have it legalized by the spring of 2018. Oh. So by spring of 2018, we should be able to be purchasing it in corner stores or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Wherever they decide.
One of the 40 Ontario locations.
Yeah.
Evenly dispersed, not based on per capita.
I think what's probably going to happen with that is the black market is not going anywhere. I think you're still going to have
black market's getting busier, man.
The dispensaries and your local pot dealer I think all that's going to stay. It's probably just going to be cheaper than the government stuff.
My guy's saying he's going to be busier when that time comes around. Like that's
Right, because they can get. Well, you won't have to go into a dark alley to do a drug deal anymore.
Well,
You
I
can
go to a
just kind
penthouse.
Yeah,
for mine,
we have much
Yeah.
nicer ways to get our illicit substances.
Yeah.
When marijuana is legal and our prohibition ends, Culturally Apt will totally be doing a episode completely written, filmed, and edited, completely stoned.
Yeah.
Probably just going to be
Wow.
a fun bonus episode with Rusty and Underbite. It wouldn't be a serious episode.
In a smoky room.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Smoke-filled room where we talk about how weed makes you a better furry or something.
That's a horrible message. I do not condone that, even as somebody who does it regularly. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Marijuana is nothing, or marijuana is something I've never tried, but I want to, and it's not really from a like, oh, let's get high type of thing. It's just like I want to experience things, and I find it odd that everything is illegal. Everything cool, everything different seems illegal.
Government.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I mean, as far as anything you could do, it's safer than alcohol. It's like as safe as, frankly. Yeah, much safer than alcohol. Oh my god! But it's literally doesn't hurt to try it once. If anything, it may not work the first time you do it. I mean, I'll be brief on the topic, but
sometimes it just doesn't hit people right away. It takes a few tries before anything happens.
It took my roommate Sam, who's like 6'1", 250 pounds when he lived with me. He's probably heavier now, like fucking jacked. Works out all the time. It took him 16 tries to actually get stoned on weed, and then it was
So when you do try it, it might not work right away.
Yeah. 16 tries.
What is that? 3, but 16 is like what the hell, man?
What does that even mean? Tries, like
16 separate occasions in which he imbibed, and then nothing happened.
Had a puff of a joint, or a hit from the pipe, or next day would be the second attempt. Next day, a third attempt. Yeah. So like on 16 different days, he tried, and none of them worked until the last one.
Well, maybe you gotta hit it like a little bit harder. Did he try that? Maybe it would have taken 16 tries.
That's the other approach.
No, man, I watched him, man. He did it. He did it.
I'll take your word for it.
Moving forward, he doesn't do it. He works out regularly. Strong man. Anyways. He also helped me at my first furry convention table. It was really, really cool.
I have finished this.
Yes. Anyways. So that's that. Definitely something fun that we could film as well.
Yeah,
I hope it's stoned, smoky.
I hope it's legal here in the U.S. soon.
They got some of your states already on it.
Yeah, sort of. Here it's fun because the federal government and the state government don't get along. So you could have a state where it's legal and there's some kind of dispensary or something, and the federal government can still raid it and bust those guys and take them to federal prison, even though it's state legal.
That's really frustrating.
Yeah, that's really retarded.
What's the point of it then?
Yeah, it's about the dumbest thing you've ever heard. And since it's illegal federally, if you work for the government, you can't do it, even if you're in a state where it's legal.
Because you're above that.
I guess so. But everyone does it anyway. I mean, what politicians aren't doing hardcore drugs, like stuff harder than weed anyway, so.
Greed brings out a lot of ugliness. It's too bad that it's so illegal, and it's too bad that we have all this alcohol that is legal, but don't dare do it and drive at the same time. It's just like, it just doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, the history and prohibitions and trades, and I mean, that's everything to do with it, historically speaking, as far as why alcohol is legal and marijuana isn't, and alcohol can kill you in a matter of minutes if you drink enough of it, and pot really, basically, no human being will ever overdose on marijuana. When you look at the math behind it, it's like if you overdose on marijuana, that's like carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide poisoning.
Have it in concentrated pills and then eat a whole bottle. Then maybe you might risk it. But
at that point, you are the man who did that if you do it.
Yeah,
that's how history will remember you. You are
right.
Yeah. That's insane. So
I find the whole people, a lot of people smoke weed and then they don't admit it, or they, like politicians, like I said, they do their drugs and then they pass laws prohibiting
Yeah.
drugs. It's very
Well,
strange
yeah,
to
I
me.
mean, politicians also try to pass laws prohibiting homosexuality and then get caught with like fucking 18-year-old boys in their hotel room. Also
Yes,
happens on a pretty regular basis.
it's very strange to me. This whole kind of, it's kind of the same with furries when it comes to like porn. A lot of furries are like, "Oh no, I'm not into that. That's wrong." But they have
Yeah.
dozens of images of their character. Oh, those are private pictures. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I could see that. There's certainly that level of vague hypocrisy and uneasiness when it comes to porn and furries. But
Right.
again, that's with culturally apt, trying to dispel that and say, no, porn exists, it's okay. It's okay to look at porn and consume porn and get all that, because the reality is it's only a subsection of the fandom. It's not the whole story.
And even that, I mean, a lot of the furry audience is younger. They're growing up, and that's part of it as well. So,
Now, I've seen a video of yours. You guys are familiar with I think it's IARP,
Yep, totally.
for science.
Okay, so according to their statistics, most furries are into like porn, or like furry sex is at least part of the fandom for them. It's part of their personal enjoyment of the fandom. And but then, like a lot of people seem to say or seem to think that most furries there is no sexual aspect for most furries. So it's a very strange dynamic there.
Yeah, I think for most furries, speaking of the broadest of sense, statistically, yeah, most males in the fandom all consume porn. Something like 90% of all males consume.
Yeah, and the fandom's like 75% male.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That broad statistic sense, sure. But I also breathe air and drink coffee. But what I like to look at, not only do we need to acknowledge those statistics, I like to acknowledge the actual, like, if you go to Fur Affinity and then divide all of the content between mature and adult versus the PG, it's like only 20% is adults. And so you have this huge, massive library of content that 80% of content furries are making is not erotic in the least. That's what I find fascinating. But there is this big focus on porn, but it's not the majority of content that we're making, especially when you include YouTube or video games or things that aren't on Fur Affinity.
But who are the most popular furry artists?
Oh yeah, no,
they're all porn artists.
Totally. And they're also like the career furries making the most amount of money than any of us.
Right. So, who is that content that is not pornographic, I would argue that it's mostly done by younger kids who haven't discovered that they are into porn yet.
Or me.
All right, yeah. No, there are a few good artists that, and I'm not saying you're. Oh, well.
No, I won't get into that. But as far as I don't have any porn in my gallery right now, really. So
right now, there are good artists that aren't into the porn thing. But a lot of those artists who say that their work isn't sexual have some pretty sexualized or pretty suggestive art at the same time, Like, you don't have to have, like, genitals on display to have for an art to be sexualized. You know what I mean?
Like, you go to an art museum and you have all of the paintings of pretty ladies with their tits out. Not too different. Though you're not allowed to masturbate in the art.
Well, I mean, there's art. See, it's a gray area. There is art that is
for
of
furries,
nude.
we call it a fuzzy area.
A fuzzy area. There's art that is of nude characters, but it isn't necessarily sexual. I've seen art of fairies, like little fairies like dancing around teacups and shit that are naked, but it's not a sexual piece. It's clear the artist's intent isn't to like sexualize these creatures. They're nude because it's I guess, part of the art. It's part of the, like, innocence and everything of the fairies. And then at the same time, like I said, I've seen plenty of furry art where the intent is obviously to get a reaction. It's like, oh yeah, this character is, yeah, she's clothed in like minimal clothing and her ass is like center of the picture on display and she's like looking back at the viewer with like a naughty, oh, don't you want to fuck me look? And it's like, no genitals are showing, right? The character's not nude, but it's still a very sexualized piece of art, and yet people are gonna say, well, it's not sexual there, it's not, no genitals, therefore it's not sexual. And so when you talk about that like amount of clean art on Fur Affinity, you know, how much of that is sexualized art that just doesn't have genitals?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I was speaking in a very broad sense, and Fur Affinity isn't even the best example to be using for this. But I don't know. I feel like, especially when you culminate all different kinds of media, like YouTube, or even like you can consider Twitter, like Vine, like we have video game creators and comic book writers. I think overall, porn is not the majority. Even the sexualized but still considered clean PG art. But I could be speaking out of my ass.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably
on Fur Affinity.
I think you're probably right. Most of the artwork is not
but like
sexual, even though most
money is probably sexual.
I see a strong 80-20 in that 20% of the work is sexual, but it gets 80% of the views.
Yeah.
And I feel like 20% of the artists are sexual, but they get 80% of the influence.
Yeah, like I'm on the browse feature of FA right now, and there's at least one image in each row that is blatantly porn. But yeah, some of it is just pinup, some of it is just like your character here or a badge. I think there's tons of excellent furry media worth celebrating that isn't strictly pornographic. Same time, my channel doesn't ignore the porn either. We try to talk about it openly and honestly and
it's a huge part of the fandom.
Huge part.
If it wasn't there, a lot of people wouldn't find the fandom. Let's face it. There's no shame in porn.
Yeah,
I think it's human.
Bringing that almost into the real world, you can look at how Anthrocon tries to present. Like, also keep in mind, I've never actually been to these conventions. Anthrocon presents like a PG-13 setting, and then you have MFF, which is a little bit more free-spirited and a little bit more open about the sexuality.
Doing transmitted disease testing live at the convention.
Yeah, and allowing puphood. That's a whole other conversation that people have been having.
We're not going into that, but...
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's the thing is, it's very odd, and I think Anthrocon, the reason why it's like that is mostly because of Kage. Yeah. He has this kind of message that I completely disagree with, where, oh, you shouldn't tell people about how the furry fandom really is. You know, make sure you keep it quiet.
Make sure you lie about it.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my god.
Motives. If his heart is in the right place. But yeah, there are certainly things he could be doing a bit better, and with regard to representing that side of the fandom.
Eventually, I'm going to have him on the podcast. I'm going to confront him directly about that, and we're going to have a little debate. But we'll
sure he'll be sly.
You'll have your work. You'll have your work cut out for you. Yeah. He's very well spoken.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Slippery.
Yeah. Slippery.
That's a good word.
Okay, sorry. Like I should be respectful in that, but
his persona is a cockroach.
Yeah. As far as trying to be like, why aren't you more progressive, I guess, would be the way to...
all total respect to Kage and all of his hard work that he does for the fandom.
Absolutely. I'm with Arke on that 100%. It's just, some people are who they are.
Yeah, no, if that's the message he wants to have, I guess I can't really say he's completely wrong about it. It's I think, what's that? It's just that I think if we were more open about the sexual aspect to people outside of the community and just said, look, this is how it is, we're not going to hide it, then people would just kind of accept that. Like, sure, there's some kind of like shock or whatever, like, oh, it's sexual. But then, people would just get over it, It
takes time, but I feel like too, a lot of it is that we're a newer generation. We're less than half of Uncle Kage's age still. And in that, I feel like there's a lot of new things that have come out in conversations, like only within us, that address things as the way we see it, but we may not understand why they came about that way. I mean, we know why we want to avoid over stigmatizing the sexuality of the fandom, but as far as like trying to spread more openness about it, that may reflect more of a paradigm that's newer to us and more relevant to us, I should say. And I mean, as far as getting somebody, I guess, who has been doing it at AnswerCon for over 20 years now, has a certain methodology to the ways. As far as
I have to disagree with you slightly, Underbite.
Go for it.
I would say back in the early days of the early 90s on Usenet forums and wherever else furries were gathering, there was also this split of like people who were into it because they're kind of kinky versus people who just were interested in role-playing. So I think this conversation is actually as old as the fandom. Because even pre-furry artwork that's still anthropomorphic is pretty sexualized. Gotta say.
Yeah.
So I think that conversation is as old, if not older, than the furry fandom or even the furry moniker.
Right. And you have to remember Kage is, well, I don't know. Have you read the book, Furry Nation?
Yeah, it's on my desk right now.
Okay. Yeah, Kage is one of those, I guess you'd call him a gray muzzle. He's where when the fandom first started 30-something years ago, it was not really sexualizing it. He's from those days, and, his thoughts about furry are that...
I think evidence is contrary, that there was certainly at least just as much sexualization as I was trying to portray, about an 80-20 split.
Yeah.
There's lots of, or even like Omaha Cat Dancer, which was about a stripper and had very explicit sex scenes. That was before furry was a fandom. It was very influential with like the Comic Alliance or whatever. There's a bit of a history with Omaha the Cat Dancer.
Omaha the Cat Dancer. I'll have to look that up.
Yes, you should look it up. It's quite fascinating. That's the sort of history I pick up doing research for Culturally Apt.
Fine. But like what Underbite was saying, I think that's true to a degree too. I more agree with Underbite on this, in that it's just kind of different now. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in America we've gotten much more. We've grown less prudish in the last 10 years or so, where people are just open about their sexuality more. The whole gay marriage thing is one thing. Just the whole more progressive left. Not the regressive left, but the people who are just liberal in general. Like, that's a whole new thing. So people are just more open about their sexuality in general, so I don't see why furries should be hiding it so much. You get stuff that's way weirder than furries anyway, and people are okay with it.
I think one controversial topic in question there would be bestiality and people's feelings about if they're going to do it in a costume, then they must be into the... But it's different for everybody.
Yeah,
and usually,
This sexy figure has an animal head, therefore this must be an animal represented. Instead of, no, it's basically a human with an animal mask. That's what most of the porn furries make is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either, is people's idea of bestiality, but then at the same time we have people dressing up like animals in mainstream, I guess, culture, Playboy bunnies and things.
Presented and received very selectively in what anthropomorphic characters are good and which ones are bad, furry, need to be burned to heck, and all this. It seems really arbitrary. I've had one guy get weirded out by furries, but he loved TMNT, and I'm like, okay, stage your case. Stage your bloody case. Let's sit down and talk it out, bud. That's immediately what I wanted to say. But
weird thing is, in video games, especially recently, where you can fuck aliens or fuck half dragon people and half cat people and stuff like that. And it's okay, so you can fuck furries in these mainstream media games, and that's perfectly fine, and people are into that. But no, if there's a subculture around that, then that's bad.
Yeah, let's just make fun out of it. Let's watch their self-esteems stand tall and sturdy after we're done. It's So it can be. I mean, I feel like a lot of it too, especially I want to credit some of the global population to it, as far as having so many people on the planet right now. We have a lot of people in cities, a lot of different culture. And I mean, one thing that definitely drew me to moving to Toronto, with leaving a province of 500,000 people to a city of over, city area of over 5 million people. I mean, I knew there'd be a lot more furries here. I knew that that convention was going on. And as far as just the variety in ideas and the just quality of it, I mean, yeah, I mean, especially, like, I can really value that growing up on an island, especially where I see a lot of really, I guess, more set in their ways, conservative thinking, much of an older, aging population. And yeah, growing up in that sort of environment really helped me appreciate being in some sort of environment where something like furry can happen and be healthy and thriving. And like as mentioned earlier, we have Howl now, like we have Kerfluffle now. Howl's been on the go for several years. So many different meets, convention and a half. I do want to call it a convention and a half. The other one isn't quite, but anyways, yeah, no, it's quite wild, and I just feel like I've been finding, like, even though, like, I feel like there's always going to be furry drama, but in a general sense, I feel like the whole sense of unity and family within furry, without getting too mushy about it, like, it's getting stronger, it's growing. And I think because of that strength, the space around it and people who are more curious about it are seeing more of the positive attributes from it. We're seeing a lot more positive media reviewing on it. So I think, like, we're just in the moment that could be a little more tricky, but we're definitely on our way to someplace that's a lot more beautifully publicly represented.
I certainly think that furry is in a better place than it ever has been in regards to, like, public relations and how the general mundane populace of humans views us as a community and as a fandom. I think it's never been more positive. There's still lots of work to do and still many misconceptions to dispel.
But there's been a lot of groundwork already done now.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing, is the more open we are about furries and what we're about, and more honest we are about that, then the faster furries are normalized, which means it's not even going to be a problem.
Some people don't want it to be normalized. Some people want it to stay weird and niche, and yeah.
And I don't really understand that. I mean, I guess I kind of
do with pride and ownership.
Yeah, when it's weird and niche, it feels like it's yours.
Yep.
Whereas if it's popular and everyone's involved, then it doesn't feel as special and as unique.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, there are so many.
Your fursuit for Halloween.
Or if you like a band no one else listens to, they're still not yours. They're human beings that you don't own or have probably never met. Like.
Yeah, when a band gets too popular. Yeah, that's something. People do the same thing when a band gets too popular, when a show gets too popular. They're like, I don't like it now because it's popular. So I think,
like, okay, as furry gets more popular, that's probably going to happen. Is there's probably going to be a bunch of disgruntled furs who leave the fandom for 5 minutes and then come back and like, oh, I liked it before, it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. But, at the same time, there are a lot of furries who say, oh, I wish the world was just all furries. I wish I didn't have to, like, be human. I wish everyone was furries. I was like, yeah, but that could happen. Everyone could be furries.
Government just signed Persona.
Government just signed Persona.
Careful about that. Careful. That's, sounds kind of real.
Government assigned Persona? Yeah. No, some people, too, because there's kind of a divide, at least in America, there's a political divide. The, like, alt furry and then the, like, anti-furs. You know what I'm talking about?
Two small fringe groups on extremes. I'd rather not get into them. I don't think they deserve the airtime, to be honest.
Yeah, no, all I mean is that some people are calling for there to be, like, a furry leadership or, like, official leadership or something, and I'm like, that's a bad idea.
Furry is a rough concept that people sort of all point their faces towards. It's not something that we have a glorious leader of. Other ways,
glorious leader.
Other ways I've heard proposed for furries to get a little more organized is like a legal defense fund for, like, furries to sign up for and pay dues to in case someone steals their artwork, or if someone's violating their copyright, something like that, or like the furry artist guild sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would like to see happen in the near future, is something with, like, on the lines of that. There's not ever going to be, like, a leader of furry. There's going to be popufurs who come and go. And, like, you have figureheads like Uncle Kage, who runs one specific event and also does a lot of media. But he's not by any means the president of furries.
There's gonna be no furry embassy in Chicago or Toronto or anything like that. I mean,
well, some people want that, but there's so many dangers associated with that. It's like you were talking about government assigned personas.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna
that's
are you gonna
organizing? These are the kind of questions that come up.
I was quite joking about
yeah, but I mean,
not at all serious.
No, but that's what some people want. They want it to be like an official thing with official leaders, and you have to
and unlikely to ever happen.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so weird to me. But I mean, I don't know.
Big brother,
I don't know. Maybe
in your ceiling watching you masturbate.
Spooky-eyed black cat.
Well, that means a whole different thing to furries. So,
Not though. I feel like as far as anything, yes, this is the story I was trying to recall. I saw a tweet of somebody in an Uber ride home from a con. I guess they were there for the Saturday. They're on the way home. The Uber driver just says, "Oh, where'd you guys come from? Like, was at a party?" He was like, "Oh, it was a furry convention. People dress up in those costumes and stuff." He's like, "Oh, that's what it was. Do people have sex in those?" And the people in the Uber were like, "Some of them do." And the Uber driver was like, "Man, I wouldn't mind getting comfy with a cat." And then just like, he loved the idea of it and just went on about it. So I think the point of it there is that, be yourself. Like, I'm not saying you have to be that level of comfort in your sexuality, but if that's where you are or wherever you are, present it that way, man.
Like, not everyone is comfortable talking to strangers about these things, and that's fine. Not every single furry has to be a furry ambassador.
Nope.
But for those who are a bit more comfortable talking about it, like, we should be more open and more comfortable talking about whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't force it if it makes you uncomfortable. Like, not everyone's cut out to represent all aspects of furry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just exactly. I preach this sort of message on my channel about being open about your sexuality more, but if you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine too. That's if you want to appeal to like a younger audience, or you just don't feel comfortable with it. No one's trying to force it. It's perfectly fine to do things however you want to do them.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we're coming up on the hour mark here. We're probably a little past an hour. So, any final things you guys want to say? Any like products or whatever you want to plug before we end?
Certainly head over to youtube.com/culturallyeft and hit that subscribe button. Watch our videos. That would always be appreciated. We're super, super stoked for 2018, where we will be releasing our mini series, Fursuiting a History, with all sorts of collaborators on that, including Boxamore, Easy Wolf, Tempeh Okun is writing a few of those for us. It's going to be quite an event. We're very excited to push that envelope filmically and get it out there.
Cinemagraphically.
Yeah.
And hopefully when Underbite's finished, we can push some more of the fun skit, short story ideas that I think furries will enjoy consuming just as much, and give us more variety within our ever experimental channel. So
totally
something more to look forward to next year. And it's crazy, hey, how when production speeds up and we have this channel now a few years, like our entire next year is, it's not set in stone, but we have a really good idea of what it looks like from start to finish. As far as like planning out these series and other events that are happening, it's just, time flies, man. It's wild.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to check these guys' channel out. It's really good, a lot of their videos. If you like my videos, you'll like their videos, because theirs are like even better versions of mine. And so, check them out. And everyone, thanks for watching.
And make sure to subscribe to Kothcast on YouTube.
Well, thank you.
And subscribe to Kothcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I want to put these on iTunes or something. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you guys later.
I have been RK.
I've been Underbite. Thank you for watching.